that sunset, you know what it is. It's a program. It's a simulated world. Did I get you off guard? It was too rough for you? It's beautiful, right? Sunset is always beautiful here. Sometimes the colors are like extraordinary. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things. I'll make a science fiction scenario here to understand who is Jesus. Oh, did I touch a sensitive topic? Okay, let's talk about simulation theory and Jesus. Okay. If you're a believer, probably you will say, fuck off, what the heck you're talking about? That's blasphemy. Okay? If you are one of those who just got into matrix world simulation theories and stuff like that, you say, what the fuck? So I'll make a story to tell you something. Jesus is real, and I'll give you the explanation. I don't know if people came up with this conclusion or not, but I'll make it to make sense, right? I'll tell you some bullshit. I still enjoy the sunset, and I'm going for my little hike. I posted in the past a bunch of recordings, a bunch of videos about programs, energy programs, which are being used to configure this world. So what's atom? I explained in the past what's an atom, and it's all information. If you are a computer programmer, if you ever programmed games with characters and stuff, it makes sense to you because you kind of know the logics behind programming a larger program that contain different characters and scenarios and stories and automatic routines and stuff. So for you, it's easier to switch into this simulation world theory, but you maybe didn't think too deep. You just thought of the surface. But if you're a deep thinker, you start kind of like trying to figure out how my senses are made up, how my five senses are making my reality, and how I feel, how I have an awareness, what's the consciousness, and all those questions. And you think, am I stupid? It makes sense, but you don't want to talk about. You don't want to talk about because majority of people you talk to think you are crazy, and you don't want to lose friends. You don't want a stigma that you are kind of messed up right here. And why you don't want to do that? Because you, as a human living being, you were programmed to seek love. And if you lose friends, you lose the chance of being appreciated, feeling loved, and those human emotions. And those are the basic human needs. And mosquitoes are getting aggressive, and the mosquitoes are also little programs. All these things. I'm just kidding, but let me talk about Jesus. You might be a believer, so if you're a believer, if you believe in Jesus, of course you've been programmed to see the world through your five senses. And at the time Jesus was moving around in a human flesh, there was no science, no explanation about this energies, field, like all sort of fields, gravity, electrostatic, and all those things. So there's not much science. And oh, it's kind of low. It's flying at the mountain level. It's like okay. And actually, he was supposed to fly that way, unless he got the clearance to fly above the city. Okay, it's a program. It's a character flying another system made out of little programs which are creating an airplane. Oh yes, yes. So this is another one who's flying high at the correct altitude, like 2,000 something feet, and he takes that route to another airport, which is the correct route. I don't know. He got clearance to go that way, but the other redneck, maybe he wants to avoid the radar. Yeah, the sky is still beautiful. It's like whoa. Like I was programmed to believe and to love such color, such relaxing color. Yeah, so at the time Jesus came up with some teachings, and what's this Bible about? It's a bunch of, let's call it, reports or history of events from a different perspective. Those guys who followed him around, and I described in different video the reasons behind Jesus picking up on selecting these guys to follow him and spread the word. So he had a criteria, and he was able to see their character and their kind of ways of thinking, and he knew I need these guys to spread my teachings. And why is that? Because he had a system of methods, teachings, how to elevate your soul, how to clean up your mess, your sins, and how to reach a higher level of consciousness. Why is that? I'll tell you in a bit. No, actually, should I tell you now? I'll do that. When you have a different attitude, you become more godly. You are full of love, compassion, unconditional love. You don't mess up, you don't hurt other people's emotions. And why is that? Because we are all one. We are like a hive mind. I call this system like a hive mind. If you look at the bee family, beehive, they don't have much of a brain, but still they know to do stuff. They are programmed to do basic functions to ensure the hive survival. Same thing with other insects. Same thing with some fish. You see, they swim around into a very beautiful kind of a cloud of fish underwater, and they never collide. Same thing with certain birds. They never collide. They are so good pilots flying around, and it's like their little brain is just a tiny little brain. Does not have enough neurons to hold that much power of processing. So they rely on this hive mind, which most scientists have no freaking clue what's that. So it's a neuronal connection. It's an invisible energy connection between these minds that form one single system that thinks at unison, thinks together, and makes these decisions, and everyone is connecting there, like a bunch of people praying to the same God and feeling in sync. It's rare, but still humans can do that. sort of a, let's call it telepathy. Maybe that's a better explanation. Telepathy amongst these minds, not the real brain, not the brain. The brain is just to ensure some basic functions like how to process the reality and pick up some foods, multiply, like procreate and stuff like that. So we are part of this hive, like a collective consciousness, they call it. And if I hurt someone, I'm hurting a hive. I'm hurting this whole thing. It doesn't mean the whole thing will receive the pain in a physical body, but they still, I'm hurting the hive. Let's call it God. We could call that collective mind a God, which it's a sum of all the things, all the living and non-living things created by this entity that kind of connecting everything together. Now I could be totally wrong, could be a separate God who's using a very sophisticated computer system, and that God is working through that machinery that is generating everything, including us as little programs that make us feel and experience life in a material form and afterlife into an energy form. So it could be a God as an entity and using a machinery or a computer style system, very sophisticated and very, very powerful. We cannot imagine because we are inside of the system. We don't have a way to have another perspective from outside to see what it is and how we look like. It's like we are in that box. Could be in that God. We don't know. But I'm not going to make assumptions. Now, so Jesus had access to this information. He knew how God thinks, the Creator. He knew how energy works, how all this system, but he didn't have to know the programming side, like how this system worked. He knew at the level of his programming, the way God programmed him to be the perfect being amongst humans. Now, some people are thinking that he came here and he evolved spiritually by doing some trainings. That's totally okay. It's a good explanation. But he came here and he was programmed to experience this journey, to experience the human journey, and probably he went through training or something like that. But he was already a soul or an energy system that was ready to learn. So how many people go to yogi schools, go to Tibet, go to India or something like that, and they get stuck to a certain level? How many reach Jesus level? So lots of people do magic, use external help like dark entities or the good entities to do magic, to do these things, but they don't have the combined knowledge and abilities and power to connect to God like Jesus did. So I can't comment on Buddha, Mohammed, and those enlightened beings. I can't comment to that, and I won't make an assumption that that Jesus was the only one. I don't know anything about that. I'm just making up a scenario to give you something to think about. If you still watched what I'm posting here. And so Jesus was a creation of this God, specifically designed for our planet and for our system, human ways of thinking. So he learned the human knowledge. He was programmed to come here according to the people who knew he was coming, like a baby is going to be born and he's going to be named this this name, Emmanuel or Jesus, I don't know. So I don't know much about Bible. I just got into that type of mindset, which makes sense if you can connect your mind to a mindset that makes you feel or have a sense what was this guy purpose. So again, I did not read the Bible, and I don't think I want to read it. Maybe I'll just read it as a general knowledge. But I get the sense if I start reading the Bible, the thing is, I'm going to get stuck in details. So I'll go into details, and you see, there are people who spend 20, 30 years reading the Bible, studying the Bible, dissecting every word in the Bible, and they still don't connect to that mindset. They are still sinful people. I'm not judging anyone, but they get the knowledge, they get the words, they kind of understand the idea, but they don't get the power to do it, to ascend and follow Jesus' teachings the way Jesus was teaching people. So again, so Jesus came here with a purpose. He programmed his disciples um, to spread the word, because he could not just go around and heal 365 days, every day, let's say 5-6 healings a day or something. Was he was aware that he did not have that much coverage, right? So he had to build an army of followers to pass on the teachings and also the skills of healing and other things. And before getting to be able to heal and perform miracles, a soul or a human soul or human mind is supposed to ascend, make some changes. You cannot really heal someone or pray for someone and see that it does something if you don't have love, if you don't have compassion, if you don't feel that pain, or if you don't have that experience. So generally, healers are um, experienced with life and pain. So they understand that, so they are sort of empathic to the people they pray for. So they care so much that they put that, not only the prayer, but they turn into that mindset that connects them to more of a ascended souls, like saints, uh, maybe Jesus, and divine creatures like that. So these saints were priests or spiritual people who ascended by following similar teachings, like Jesus' teachings. So they cleaned up their souls, they helped so many people, they were able to heal, they were able. So let's say someone is spiritually elevated by doing certain type of practices, following certain routines, worshiping, being grateful, and all those things. But doesn't mean that person is willing to go around and heal others or do what Jesus did. That person might be focused on something else, and because it's God's plan for that person not to do that type of work, like Jesus and his apostles or the missionaries and priests. So that person does not have the calling. But maybe the person just want to get spiritually elevated. That's totally fine, but doesn't mean it has the calling to go around and spread the word. Now, getting a little bit deeper into this ideology, so Jesus knew all these things, how to elevate the soul, ascend. But why would be that? So God has, of course, I don't know, but I'm making up crap. Okay, God has or is using this sophisticated system, and whoever uses such a thing is not a simple mind. It must be super sophisticated creator, a creature or individual or alien or just a god that we don't understand how it looks like or how it thinks like, but must be very sophisticated mind there. So a sophisticated mind is not just like experiencing life. It has some ideas and plans, or even the fact that we are built so complicated, so complex, like atoms and molecules and whole tissues. That it tells you that this is supernatural. So it's natural things, but it's above the nature, above this creation. And such entity has to have a plan, has to have a vision, or uh, some sort of a mind that thinks beyond our imagination. And so this God thought of making the best creatures, making the best creatures. And natural selection it could be part of it. Could be part of it, like the strongest, the smartest, the I don't know, more aggressive, but could be part of the design. And I'm not blaming Darwin for having his deep thinking, but he did not think that deep. So he stopped with his thinking to a certain level, which is still very smart, to notice that there is a system that is evolving itself, is cleaning up all the sick, and the best can move forward. So that's still a part of a programming of the system, like the best. But also spiritually, uh, if you just allow the human bodies as a human species to select the best, you will have a bunch of assholes, aggressive, good looking. The earth would be filled with this type of people, and probably wars everywhere. So God knew that in the programming. But also God wants the the most elevated mind that is pure, that keeps these bodies healthy. Because if you have a messed up mind, regardless how strong is that body, regardless how tough and how good looking, how the guys is able to fuck around, get the best chicks, and the woman get the best guys, it is going to result in a bunch of assholes eating each other and doing stupid stuff. So it's not good. You have to have a clean mindset, full of love for each other, understanding and stuff like that. So one thing is the body and another thing is the mind. When combined together, two beautiful creations of this God create a beautiful human being. And so a human being that has a beautiful mind, but also is cherishing the body, the God creation. And for the spiritual side, God probably has this natural selection, but not natural, but supernatural selection. The mind itself, it's selecting the best, or the God is selecting the best minds, the best soul. And how it does, it it selects the souls that got to not deeper thinking, but to a higher, let's call it vibration. So all these souls irradiate or broadcast their intentions, their energies, because they are energy, and people or entities, not people, people are here, but entities and including bad entities in the energy realm, they can see energy. They cannot see the bodies. They can see energies because that's energy world, and that's the way uh, everything is transparent. There is no clothes, no curtains, no masks. People, the souls can hide behind. So everything is like out in open. And you did something stupid, it's being seen, it's being perceived. So it's possible that this God is keeping only the worthy souls. That's why in some belief systems, it is believed that after death, after some processing and some, let's call it judgment, or anyway, showing uh, some review, life review, um, only certain souls are being selected for the God world. Doesn't mean all those are going to see God, but some of those will see Jesus, because Jesus is so elevated, is so close to God, that only certain beings or certain souls can reach that level. And it's like the cream of the God creation for the human world. We can't say, we don't know if there are other entities for other worlds, like similar to Jesus or elevated souls. We don't know. We can only assume. So now, Jesus, let's say as a program, let's say I'm just making up shit. Jesus as a program was programmed to come here, experience this programmed world, the life on earth, have an awareness of being a human, learn the human ways, and teach the humans, teach these characters the right ways and the right tools, right skills to elevate their souls, so they can be part of that God's selection. Otherwise, you know, because of the freedom God put into these creations, into these programs, God gave them freedom to make their own choices, did not program them to follow His own rules, because people would not experience the same type of life. They would think, you know what, I'm in a cage, I'm a slave. They would figure out humans are smart. They still are under God's powers, and God can turn their lights off at any time. That's why it's important to not only, I should not say live with fear of God, but have the utmost respect for such a entity that created everything, and that can know your thoughts, feel your being, and still allow you to roam around and mess up, and give you a chance to fix it up after that. So if you had respect for your parents for raising you, imagine who's God, an invisible entity that created everything. So this program that we call Jesus, very sophisticated system, energy system, uh, came here programmed at a higher level. So we can't say that his soul came from another world or had lived before and evolved over thousands of lifetimes. We can't say that. We assume that God made Jesus specifically for this purpose, to come down to us, to our level, and give us the ways. These are the ways. Now, why some people are able to follow this doctrine and clean up their mess and evolve, or teach others these ways, and other people struggle with it, is because not everyone is open, has open ports for love and other energy and feelings that are required to understand this doctrine. So it's one thing I learned, let's say, to ride a bus, to drive a bus, and I do it as a job. And another thing is to feel connected to the bus, and I'm in love with the bus. Or to be a pilot. It's one thing to be a commercial pilot and fly that plane as a machine. Another thing is to feel you are part of it, and the airplane is part of you. Especially bush pilots and small plane pilots, they can tell you that feeling. So same thing with the Bible. You have to be have open ports, your mind ports, to be able to feel the way Jesus was uh, teaching, and feel in that mindset. Then you can get that virus. The programming, Jesus programming, is like being virused by